The village ahead was a skeleton of mud and straw. The people inside no more than whispers behind closed doors. And as Ilara collapsed against a banyan tree, the silence wasn't empty, it was heavy, filled with the buzzing of his own failure. He looked at the manuscript, his magnus opus, his legacy, his soul, and whispered to the indifferent sky, "I gave them my youth, my eyesight, my very breath, and they threw me out for a younger man with cheaper ink." Have you ever felt that? That specific hollow ache, the thing you loved most, looks at you with total indifference. That is the sound of attachment breaking, and it is louder than any scream. Alara didn't know it then, but sitting 10 feet away, chewing on a bitter neem twig, was a woman named Panna, a weaver whose hands were gnarled like roots and whose smile was a map of every famine she had survived. She didn't offer him water, she didn't offer him pity. She just watched him weep over his leaves, and finally she spoke, her voice like dry leaves skittering on stone. "You'll hold that thing so tight, scholar. You think it's yours." Alara snapped, "I wrote it. Every syllable is mine. You think the river owns the water that passes through it? You think the lamp owns the flame it holds? You wrote those words, yes, but you do not own them. The king rejected them. The wind will blow them away. The termites will eat them. You are suffering because you built a house in a place that floods every year." Ilara stared at her, hatred rising, but then he felt a strange calm settle over him. The kind of calm that comes before a storm. We spend our lives building these little clay pots called me career, me relationship, me reputation, and we scream at the universe when someone drops them. But the pot was never ours to begin with. It was just dust shaped by our hands waiting to return to dust. "You don't understand," he pleaded, his voice cracking. "Without this, I am nothing." Panna stood up, her joints popping, and walked to the small fire pit where a few twigs were smoldering for the night. She looked at Alara, then at the bundle in his hands. "Then be nothing," she said simply. "Being nothing is the only time you have enough space to be free." Alara froze. "What?" Panna held out her hand. "Give it to me." "No." Alara gasped, pulling the leaves back. "This is my life. Your life is burning right now while you sit here," she said, her eyes boring into his. That paper is dead. The king killed it. You are just carrying a corpse and wondering why it smells. Give it to the fire. Let it go." The wind picked up, blowing ash into Alara's eyes. He looked at his masterpiece, the rhymes, the metaphors, the history of a kingdom that no longer wanted him. He looked at Panna's open hand. And for the first time in 10 years, he realized he had a choice. He could die here clutching his past, or he could let it burn. Slowly trembling, his heart hammering a war drum against his rib of his existence into the weathered palm of the old weaver. Panna didn't smile. She didn't thank him. She simply turned, walked to the fire, and held the corner of the palm leaf to the flame. It caught instantly. Alara watched, his breath stopping in his throat, as the fire licked up the red thread, consuming the first stanza, then the second, his life's work turning to black snow in the twilight. He should have screamed. He should have lunged. But he didn't. He just watched, tears streaming down his face, not of sadness, but of a terror so profound it felt like flying. The fire climbed higher, reaching the center of the bundle, the most beautiful verses he had ever written, and Panna looked back at him, her face illuminated by the burning of his ego. "It's almost gone, scholar," she whispered. "Are you going to save it, or are you going to let yourself burn with it?" The last leaf curled into a black fist and crumbled into gray snow. You feel it, don't you? The hole, the emptiness where your greatness used to be. Ilara opened his mouth to scream, to curse her, to weep for his lost legacy, but no sound came out because she was right. There was a vast, terrifying silence inside him, a vacuum where the ego had been sucked out. Panna poked the ashes with a stick. You spent a decade building a cage out of words and named it Ilara. You locked yourself inside and threw away the key. I just burned the cage. Now you have to decide, do you want to build it again or do you want to walk out? Ilara sat there all night, not sleeping, just watching the embers die, feeling the ghost of his ambition leave his body like a fever breaking. And this is the truth the Buddha saw under that tree in Ika, impermanence. We suffer because we try to nail Jello to a wall. We think our identity is a statue, solid and permanent, but it's just a river. You are not your resume. You are not your heartbreak. You are not your masterpiece. You are the space where all those things happen. Modern psychology calls this ego dissolution, the terrifying but necessary death of the self-image, so the real self can finally breathe. We frame our trauma and hang it on the wall. Look, we think our scars make us interesting, but they just make us heavy. The next morning, he picked up the bucket and went to the river, and for the first time in his life, the water felt cool and real against his skin, not just a metaphor. He came back and shoveled cow dung, the smell foul and earthy, and he didn't hate it. He was just a man shoveling shit. And it was the most honest he had ever been. And it has no plot, no climax, and no moral, just this breath. The sky is wide. Walk on.